What this is called the Disruptor, everybody, in Ada. Shaken! It's your boy, Marc Cordon. 82 episodes? 82 episodes. Laura, do you know why I have 82 episodes done?
I don't.
You're like, oh, I have no idea why I got on the show. It's because you cannot stop me. I produced this show, Laura. 82.
You produced the hell out of this show.
I produced the hell out of this show. Let me ask you, and let me tell you this. When I first started this show, like I built this like huge rigging. I wish I could show you. It was this camera that was like a real sized huge camera that I thought I needed to use in order to make my shows be amazing. You know what that was? That was like fear taking hold, fear of my rejection. It was fear of like people like judging me and stuff. And so I wouldn't get on the camera, and I was like building all this other bullshit. Right. And I love the fact that today you're going to be talking about how to be or how to keep fear in the back seat of your life's road trip. Because life is a highway. I want to ride. Just don't do that. So this is the thing. Laura's a certified leadership and life coach, helping high achieving women push past that fear. We're going to talk about that fear today, and doubt to achieve the careers and the lives of their dreams. How many years were you like advertising? Like 25?
25 years. Yeah.
That's a lot of years in advertising. And not a gray hair on your head. Amazing.
That's because I started when I was 5.
So us being the same age, right? We're both 30, right? So if y'all haven't met me, my name is Marc Cordon. I am the founder of Make Money Coaching. I am also the founder, it launches today, of the Joy Revolution. Can't wait for that to start. But more importantly, I'm a positive psychology coach. That means two things. Ask yourself this every day, scale of 1 to 10. How happy am I feeling? Just the feels, the emotion. How happy am I feeling? Then ask yourself on a scale of 1 to 10, how fulfilled do I feel like I'm living my life right now? If they're both a 10, you don't need me, baby. Live your life, have a good time, and flourish. So I'm gonna ask you like a double, triple barreled question right now, Laura. Are you feeling good, and are you living life to your full purpose right now?
100%.
Nice, 100%, 100%, A+. So for those of you who are watching, and I see you, Walter. I see you giving these hearts. I see you, Molly. I see you, Melissa. For those of you who are watching, Laura, her name. If I call her Badge, it's because she's the honey badger. Lift your hands up like this. Give us some hearts for those of you who are feeling good and living life to your full purpose. How do you make that heartbeat up there in Chicago?
How do you make the heartbeat? Something like this.
Okay, so it's like shaking a maraca for you. Shaking a maraca. So this is the other thing. A lot of people think that positive psychology is about the shits and giggles 24/7. It's about you not being sad, you not being depressed. The only people who actually feel like that are dead people and sociopaths. For the rest of us, life is about ups, downs, all arounds, and like that's what living is all about. So if you woke up today and you're like, you know what, dude, like I was so freaking happy yesterday, and like now I don't know, like I'm not as happy as I was before, and I can't figure out why. Or if you're like, dude, I loved my advertising job, it gave me purpose, and like I'm heading into my 19th year and I'm like, something's off, I don't think this is me anymore. That is fine. That is a part of your journey. Your heart beats just like Laura and I's. So for those of you who are out there and it's not fully happy and it's not fully in purpose, just give us a thumbs up. You're living your life. This is going to be your TED Talk. This is going to become your book. This is going to be the story that you pass on to others. So congratulations. So here's the last one. Here's the one. Here's the reason why I do positive psychology work. I don't know if you've ever seen this part of the show, Badge, but we're gonna do it. There is another button down there. Gary Fleming, you just gave me a thumbs up. Melissa, Molly, Walter, there is another button down there. And it's a wow face. And what that stands for is if you are hopeful about the future, regardless of whether you measure at a 1 or whether you measure at a 10, if you are hopeful that tomorrow is going to be even better than today, you're going places. You're going in some really good places. So I want you to hit that button, and Laura and I are going to show you what that button looks like. It's the wow face. Badge, what is your wow face? It's like you screamed it. It's like a silent scream. Get me out of the show! Gary Fleming, it's good to see you. Hey, you changed the penguin, Gary Fleming. I do not know what that face. It looks like his tongue is sticking out. Then he gave us a thumbs up. A lot of wow faces in the house today. A lot of optimistic people. Melissa, love the energy. Takes one to know one, Melissa. Molly, with the heart, we love you too, Molly. And Melissa, of course, we're saying goodbye or hello to you. Hello, Melissa. It's great to meet you. Does she know you, Laura?
No.
Oh, okay. Well,
No.
Melissa, meet Laura. So, Laura, given all of that, thank you for taking your time out today. I just want to start with this, even before you get into sort of our little hacks to not let fear take over. What's your story?
So as I told you, when I was 5 years old, I started my career in advertising for about 25 years. And I was pretty successful. I got pretty high up in the industry. But there was this thing that I always kind of struggled with. And it would show up about 6 months into any new job that I took. And that was, I started kind of looking around and kind of going, I don't know if they think I'm as good as I think I am here. And it would just be the way I interpreted signals that I saw, or things that people said, or, things that were going on that I didn't quite understand. And I'm really intuitive. So a lot of times I kind of struggle with, like, is this just, is this my intuition telling me something I need to know? Or is it like the gremlin inside me telling me stories that aren't true? And so then I found that it kind of became this self-fulfilling prophecy. And then I kind of got to this point where it was like, I got to get out of here before they figure out that I don't belong here. So can I just get an amen if anybody here has ever felt that way before? Like, you're kind of like, I think I'm a rock star, but I'm not so sure I'm a rock star. And before they figure out I'm not a rock star, I got to bounce.
Okay, so what I'm hearing was that, like, this was full-on imposter syndrome for a while.
It was full-on imposter syndrome for 25 years.
Yowzers. Oh, my God.
Right. Okay. I know, crazy. And so then the last time it happened, it was like, look, this can't, I mean, like, okay, I'm the common denominator here, right? Like, every single job I've ever had kind of ends up this way, where I feel like, I don't think I've got what it takes. I better get out and find something else. And I just kind of got to this point where it's like, there's got to be a different story here, right? Like, I cannot be as sucky at this job as I'm feeling that I am, because I make good money. I do great things. I've won awards, all of these things, and so I got to this point where I knew that I needed to start looking at things differently and telling myself stories that were not untrue. I know that's backwards, but not that were true. A
lot of double negatives there.
Right, a lot of double negatives.
But okay, so what were those stories that you started telling yourself? That's why I chilled out, because I thought you were going to tell us the stories. Like, what's the stories?
Well, I mean, so I think it's just so easy to tell yourself these stories that are negative, because they're easier to believe, right? And why do you think that is? Like, why do you think that it's easier for us to believe those negative stories, the harmful ones, than it is to believe the happy and positive ones. I don't know. I'm asking. Does anybody know?
Yeah, and I'm actually waiting. There's a really engaged audience here, so like I'm waiting for y'all to answer that before I put in my opinion, which I obviously do. But why is it that we tell ourselves these limiting stories? And that's what I heard the question of, right?
Yeah.
Walter, Gary, I know that you guys are listening right now. Melissa, we all have those stories. Why do you think that we tell those? So while I know everyone is typing in their answer, I'm gonna give mine. I think for me as you're fast, Walter. Walter, fear and not feeling worthy. Yeah, and taking that a little bit further, the fear coming from a place of the brain, the body that wants to keep us safe, right? So even though we're living in a dangerous spot, the brain still wants us to be safe. I heard you say we sometimes will make dangerous decisions, but it feels more safe, right? Because we're not changing, right? So yeah. What are your thoughts on it?
So I think that we are a mix of catabolic and anabolic energy. Anabolic being healing, constructive, productive energy, and catabolic energy being draining, constrictive, limiting energy. And the catabolic energy weights heavier than the anabolic energy. So even if you're generally this up person and you're generally like clocking along like, I got this, I'm a total badass, that catabolic energy, something will cause it to flare up and it will take over and it will tell you all of these things. And I think the reason maybe that it's easier to believe is it just weighs a whole lot heavier, right?
Yeah. Is that the reason why, like, and this could be either perfectionism and other stuff, but like, is that the reason why when we get like 19 out of 20 answers right on a test, we'll destroy ourselves over the one that we get wrong? Is that the catabolic energy?
Totally.
Like okay.
Totally, right? Because somehow we've kind of created this picture in our minds of what good enough is, right? And especially if you happen to be an overachiever, like I've always been my whole life, you're kind of reaching for these bars that you set really, really, really high for yourself. And you have these crazy expectations of yourself. And then if if everybody else, your bar's up here, and if everybody else is coming right about here, and you get here, you're like, I didn't make it. I didn't hit the bar.
Is that what you actually do?
Totally, all the time. All the time. And it's just crazy because it's like, well, so like everybody else was like way down here, and you totally killed it. But you want to focus on those things. It's just like what women do in their careers when they see a job that they want. And they look at the job description on LinkedIn and they're like, okay, yes. Oh, there's like 2 things out of this list of 10 that I've never really done before. So I guess I'm not qualified for the job. But like some dude will go, check. Okay, I got 4 out of 10. I'm good. Let's do this.
I'm some dude.
Right.
Or
right.
I was some dude. I just like fling them all out. Yeah. I want to throw out something. You're really getting the audience engaged, and I appreciate y'all for participating in this. Look at you, Badge. You're getting everybody up and getting everybody talking on my show. Love it. Walter is talking about the over-attachment to a storyline that is not true. Yeah, absolutely, Walter. Like, we'll align ourselves with shit that's not real. And then all of a sudden that drama becomes real. Like, for anyone who's ever read Plato's Cave, like the people that were stuck in the cave thought the shadows on the wall were reality, not the shit that was outside of the cave. And when the person busted out of the cave and then came back, they killed him because they said he was crazy for actually having a different perspective. So Walter, thanks for bringing that up. And just give me a sign whenever you want to jump in, Laura, because I'm just going through everybody's like
Cool.
stuff here.
So yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
okay, let's read this.
Okay, let's read this. You read it.
My question about fears: how would you get over the fear, health concerns like a stroke, heart attack, or life-changing illness, and not getting back to healthy or 100%? So, Stephen, let me make sure I understand the question. So, are you asking how you get over that, the fear, to actually like go to the doctor to like get it checked out? Because that's a totally understandable fear, right? Like you're experiencing like these symptoms. You're like, oh my God, what if something's wrong with me? What if my heart's bad? What if all these, and you're like totally scared to like get the answer.
Yeah.
And yet, what's going to happen if you just keep going along, not getting the answer and not knowing, and then, someday it might be too late?
Yeah. Yeah. It looks like there's two things there, right? There's sort of that fear of mortality, right? Like that you're going to get sick, or there's the fear of, like, for example, like if I remember when I broke my arm and they said it will never be the same. So sort of what fears I had about moving forward after that. So, Stephen, if you've got a clarifying question, please let us know and we'll get back to you. Walt is taking over the damn show with Walt is, I call Walt Canadian Buddha with all his stuff that he throws in here. Non-acceptance of what is, wishing things were different that they are. Am I missing that? Wishing things were different than they are, maybe.
Yeah.
Is what you're saying. Yeah, and acceptance is key. Yeah, so Walt, thank you. Stephen came back. Will I recover? So it sounds like this would be something along the lines of the diagnosis has been made. Fear is there. And so the fear of recovery, what does that look like?
Fear of recovery. I mean, it's the same, it's kind of crazy funny, but the fear of what you don't know that is ahead of you, it shows up the same no matter what the issue is. Will I recover from this, illness that has set me back in some way? Will I recover from being fired from my job? Will I recover from a failed relationship, right? It doesn't matter what it is. The fear, it's the same for all of us, right? And it wants to tell you that you won't recover. And it wants to tell you that, oh, everything is over now. And even if it means everything from this day forward is different in your life, you want to tell yourself that's bad because you don't know what that looks like. And yet, it could be something better than you've ever experienced in your life.
Mm-hmm. There's two things that I wanted to throw out there. Oftentimes with a health concern, there's trauma, right? And so the fear is that I won't get back to normalcy, right? Oftentimes there is the embracing of the hell's outside my window. Oftentimes there's the embracing of what's the new normal in your life, right? There's also the idea that's out there of post-traumatic growth. Being sick is trauma, right? Especially a major illness. There are things that are out there, little indicators, find support. Optimism is huge. Feeling and it's hard to do when you have the sickness because you're like, easy for you to fucking say, Mark, you're not the one that's sick. Just reporting the statistics, hope, support systems, connectedness, all of those things, regardless of fear that you can put in your life, can help with post-traumatic growth rather than being stuck. That's post-traumatic growth. Look it up. It's super cool.
Yeah. So
I'll be doing a TEDx on it one day. I'll call it.
So I think that's, often why we kind of stop ourselves in our tracks, right? Because we don't know what it is that we are looking for. Like we don't know what we're working towards. We don't know what that thing is that, what that outcome is going to be. And instead of telling ourselves like it could be like the most amazing thing in the whole world, we want to tell ourselves it's going to be devastating, right? And so that's where that mindset things come in, like the thing comes in. And it can be so simple, small, like it's freezing cold outside and I don't want to go for a run because it's like 4 degrees and it's cold and it's going to be miserable and I'm going to hate every minute of it. And if that's what you tell yourself, that's probably the experience that you're going to have, right? But if you tell yourself like, who do I know is going out there in 4 degrees running, 4 miles, right? Like in a little bit of snow on the ground too, right? I'm a badass. Like if I can do this, what can't I do, right? And how good do you feel when you kind of push through that, not so sure, and you actually go for it and you do it? The experience that you have on the other side is huge.
Gotcha. So let me, this is why you're the Badger. This is why you're the Badger. Let me go through some things that people took the time to respond with us. Melissa, I wanted to talk to Melissa and Gary's points that they had brought up. A little bit about fear. We don't have to go into it, but just more really good points. It's because there are others out there who think who we think are all better than us. The comparison trap.
Yeah.
Right? How much do you work with your clients on that? The comparison trap and the fear that comes up from that?
I mean, a lot. Because of my background, I have a lot of clients that are in that creative industry or tech or, similar industries. And it is such a competitive business that you really cannot help but feel this like looking around like, okay, that person did that thing and I didn't even think to do that. Oh my God, I can't believe I didn't think to do that thing. Or this person over here is like, completely killing it. And why are they getting all the opportunities and I'm not getting them? And you just kind of get stuck in this place of comparison. And guys, It is really true. Comparison is the thief of joy.
Ooh.
You know that, right, Cordon?
I do now.
That's a good one for your joy revolution. Comparison is the thief of joy. Like you spend so much time comparing yourself to someone instead of just kind of tending to your own stuff. And the thing is, when we start to learn that it's not a race against other people, that is a lack mentality, right? Yeah. It's this mentality that there's not enough to go around, right? Now, if somebody gets theirs, I'm not going to get mine, right? It's like a pie, and there's only so many slices of the pie, and you can like slice all of the slices in half and get a few more, right? But everybody's not going to get very much that way. That's the way we tend to think about things. And when we think about things with more of an abundance mentality, that there is as much as I want in the world to go and get, I just have to stay focused on it and go and get it. That's where the treasures are found. That's where the big pieces of pie are, because you can just keep making more pie.
That's freaking awesome. I do agree with you. I think that comparison comes from the idea that there's only so many pieces of that pie in the world, and I want mine. Right. I want mine, and so they just got a big ass piece, and which means logically in the scarcity mindset that I just lost the piece, and that's actually an incorrect way of thinking, right?
Yeah, and you can say, well,
I wouldn't say incorrect, but maybe a limiting way of thinking.
A limiting way, right? And you could come back and you could say, hey, Badge, there's only one CEO job. So how do you explain that, right? And I'm like, well, in this company, there's only one CEO job. Find another company that needs a CEO, right? Yeah. I mean, they exist. So we want to limit ourselves in those ways, even subconsciously. Like we hardly even realize that we're doing it. And the when we're able to kind of open up and stop with the comparison and stop with the limiting beliefs and stop with this mentality of lack and focus more on it's out there and it's waiting for me, and I'm just going to find it. That's where the magic really happens.
Why do you think the scarcity mentality is so predominant nowadays?
I think it's kind of a byproduct of the way we're taught, and the way, some leaders tend to kind of continue to drive home, right? It's a competition. And I think it can be a very American thing, right? Because we're just, I think, just sort of natural competitors, and we're really into sports, and sports is very competitive. And so I think it's just a mix of things that culturally, we tend to teach these what we consider to be truths around lack. And there's only so much to go around. And you may be raised, hearing phrases like, well, money doesn't grow on trees, right? Or, well, there isn't enough to go around. And so, these messages get imprinted on us at a really, really early age.
Yeah.
And they sometimes are reinforced by certain people that we might look up to. And so then you're just like, well, this is the truth.
Right. I mean, and you did come from an advertising world. Like, the idea of you can totally prey on scarcity to get people to buy things, like, act now, only supplies are limited, like all that crap, right? They'll make more if you buy, right? But supplies are limited. Or they put the timer on, right? 19 minutes to buy this, right? But like, it doesn't matter. No one cares. So I also do think that there's an evolutionary piece that's a little bit antiquated. There was a time when we did live in scarcity. There was a time where we needed to come together as tribe. Everyone needed purpose back then. That's why purpose is such a big deal for us now, is we still have that enculturated in us. But I think what's happened is that the big bad dinosaurs have gone away, and we do have abundance now. And so there really is a shift that needs to happen when it comes to some of the old ass ways of thinking. Now, I wanted to ask you this. I wanted to ask you about, so you got your advertising job when you were 5 years old. And so I wanted to ask you about 4-year-old Laura. 4-year-old Laura, like, what were your hopes and your dreams and your aspirations? Did you have, can you imagine 4-year-old Laura having limiting beliefs or imposter syndrome?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, somehow I was just kind of raised with this sense of self that told me I could really just go and get whatever I wanted. And I think that, no, my parents weren't perfect like anyone's, but man, did they totally nail that one, right? Mm-hmm. And so I would say that for the most part, I just kind of assumed like, well, whatever it is that I want would fall into place. And then, I started trying to kind of get it, and I realized, well, this is a lot harder than I thought it was going to be, right? And I now I'm starting to kind of, those little seeds of doubt are starting to be planted.
Okay.
I'm not so sure. Well, maybe I was all wrong about that, right? It started pretty early. I mean, the tender age of 4, telling myself these stories of like, well, this doesn't seem to be as easy as I expected it to be, or I didn't get the feedback that I was looking for, or I didn't get hired for that job that I interviewed for. And then you just start to kind of question things.
Yep.
So, while I think I was raised with that confidence, somehow along the way, I didn't really fully cultivate this sense of, well, then if I didn't get hired for that job, that obviously means it's not a good enough job for me, right?
Absolutely.
So I think that's it's hard to, I think it's really hard to kind of separate those two sometimes.
It feels like because I was trying to get at, is it nature or nurture that these like imposter syndrome things come in, right? And it sounds like it's a little bit of both, right? And especially when you're in a culture that promotes scarcity, it would probably be like those evolutionary things that we need to get rid of are activated, right? Gary Fleming, change that, man. It's looking at this flower. We want to see your face, Gary Fleming. Back then, because he had a panda bear or something yesterday. Back then, fear kept your ass from being eaten. Now it can prevent you from getting a job. Need to evolve. Smiley face. Absolutely true, Gary. I mean, fear has had its purpose, evolutionary wise. But now we have through technology and through evolution, we have moved so fast that the brain has not been able to keep up with the evolutionary parts of things, you know? Let me throw this out there because I do want to go back to something that Stephen had brought up. And I want to close this piece off with what's going on with Stephen's story. Stephen, thank you for posting this. Why I'm asking is, I'm going through this exact fear right now after suffering a stroke on August 20th. Very real.
Yeah. Stephen, you got this, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the thing, Stephen. Sometimes we feel this fear and then we kind of beat ourselves up for feeling the fear, right? So it's like, you have this response that is completely natural. It is 100% natural to be feeling like, I don't know how I'm going to recover from this. I don't know why this happened to me. Why am I having to deal with this? What is lying ahead? Am I ever going to be, the same as I was before? And that is normal. It is totally normal to feel those emotions. Where we get stuck is staying in those emotions and letting that fear stop us from pushing ourselves forward. So in this particular case, with recovery, I'm sure, Stephen, that your physician has been working with you on a rehabilitation plan and a recovery plan and things that have been medically proven to increase your chances of having a successful recovery. And lots of times that fear will stop us from doing those things because we're just so afraid that we're not going to achieve success doing them. And, all I can say is there is a reason all of these trials and patients and physicians before you have put these things in place, and it is to get you better. And making that decision in your mind that it is not necessarily going to be the same as it was before, but it is not going to be worse. It is not going to be worse. And convince yourself of that and keep saying it like a mantra over and over and over again. You could actually end up better than before because now you're taking charge of your health, right? And you are committing to your recovery and you're committing to what needs to be done to get your body back to health. So the chances are really good it's going to be better than it was before.
Yeah. Stephen, positive vibes from all of us. Everybody send Stephen some positive vibes. Thank you for tuning in, and I'm hoping that we can lift your spirits while you're on the up and up. Love for you, Stephen, and thank you for answering that, Laura. That's some hard stuff. So I'm curious about this whole idea of like fear taking control of the wheel part, right? I think that's the part that you're really talking about. We're not trying to eradicate fear and be fearless. Stephen has every right to feel the feels right now. If I were in Stephen's shoes, I would be scared shitless right now. So like, you should feel the feels at certain points. But when fear takes over and like what you call it takes the wheel, that becomes the real problem. Now, when it comes to fear and action, Like, what is your take on the relationship between the two?
Fear and action. Well, I think that it's just the inaction stops because the fear immobilizes us,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's what I mean by not letting it take the wheel, right? So I got that from an amazing book that I read by the author Elizabeth Gilbert, who's the author of Eat, Pray, Love. The name of the book is called Big Magic, and it is about creative living beyond fear. And the idea is that we are all by birthright as humans entitled to create. And and that does not necessarily mean that you're going to go be an art director at an advertising agency. It doesn't mean that you're going to be a painter. It just means that in your everyday life, you are a creative being, and we all are, but we stop ourselves from leaning into that creativity because of this fear. And so she tells a story about how even she, as successful as she is, every time she starts a new project, she's terrified of failure, right? She's terrified. And especially the more successful you are, the more that terror kicks in, because it's like, I gotta keep crossing, like getting over that bar that I keep raising. So she says, every time I sit down and I write a letter to fear, and essentially what she does is she writes this letter, dearest fear, I know that you're going to do what you always do so very well, right? And here's the thing, creativity and I are going on a road trip. And you are going to come along as you always do, and you're going to play the role of risk assessor as you always do. And I understand and I embrace it because you are so good at it, right? But here are the rules. You are not allowed to navigate. You are not allowed to change the course of direction that we're taking. And under no circumstances are you allowed to drive.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the whole thing. It's, a lot of times we use this word fearless, and I use the word fearless a lot too. And we look at someone and we're like, oh, that guy is so fearless, or she is so fearless. And really, I'm not saying kick fear out of your life and get rid of it, because the truth is, if we had no fear, really bad things could happen to us.
Yes.
Right? The key is to recognize it and to notice it and to see that it's there and to say, okay, thank you for showing me what all the risks are. Thanks for giving me that, assessment. I'm going to decide that I'm going to take the risk, right? I'm going to just try it anyway. I'm not going to let you take the wheel and send me down a different road that's not going to get me to that thing that I really want to accomplish.
Love it. Walter's throwing this out. Cool. We're reassigning our gremlin, our inner critic. It's not like we're booting it out. We're just reassigning its role and clarifying it.
100%, 100%. And it's one of the big things that I do in coaching with a lot of my clients who are struggling with that fear. And really, I kind of say it's all fear. Fear is at the root of all of it in some form. It could be a really big fear and it could be a really small fear, but one way or another, when you kind of peel back the onion, you realize we're talking about fear here. Okay, let's figure out how we're going to get past this fear and acknowledge it, but not let it hold us back.
Yeah.
And that reassignment of the role of the inner critic, the gremlin, the voice inside you that's telling you, don't do this. This is crazy. This is crazy. If you just say, okay, noted. I'm not sure it's so crazy. Let's just see. Because the thing is, here's the thing, guys. On the other side of that, whatever it is that you're experiencing is probably in most cases just an emotion, right? It's embarrassment.
Can you say it again? I think it chopped out a little bit. On the other side of
so on the other side of that fear, right? When whatever it is that's stopping you from doing something, in most cases, and I'm not saying all, but in many, many cases, it's an emotion. It's just a feeling, right? I don't want to do this thing because it might embarrass me, right? I might look silly. I might look incompetent.
Yeah.
Someone might think fill in the blank, right? Those are the things that kind of stop us. But at the end of the day, it's like, okay, first of all, do you know that they think that? And second, what if they do? What does that mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Really good stuff here. You're blowing up the message board, but I have to say hi to Jorge. Jorge is like the best person on the show. Jorge, we've missed you. Where have you been, Jorge? Jorge showing some love from Puerto Rico. Keep watching because we've got the Jorge t-shirts coming out soon. I am not joking. So as an advertising marketer, is that cool to make Jorge t-shirts, right? So let's talk a little bit more about this. Let's talk about the idea of the stories that we tell ourselves, right? Because oftentimes when it comes to fear, we tell ourselves stories like, I guess, good and bad stories, right? Like what can we actually do to, and many times we tell ourselves bad stories and it comes out as like, like the reality of things, kind of like what Walt was talking about earlier. I want you to talk more about that, about the good stories and the bad stories.
So here's the thing. Some of the meanest things that a person will ever hear come from inside their own minds, right? Like the things that we are willing to say to ourselves to derail us and discourage us are things that we would not say to our best friend or anybody important to us. And in a lot of cases, not even people who aren't important to us, right? We have this really bad habit of telling ourselves these things like, oh, I'm so stupid for making that mistake, right? Like, what if you were talking to a very good friend of yours or your mom, right? Like, maybe you think, wow, that was a really stupid thing to do, right? But are you really going to just come out and say it like that, right? And that's the whole thing. It is stopping ourselves. So I kind of have this little trick that you can use when that negative self-talk comes up, right? Like that inner critic, to say, okay, I'm just going to ask this inner critic 3 questions. 1, is it true? Is it really true? Or is it just something that you've told yourself is true over time? Right? So that's the first question. Is it true? The second question is it helpful? Is this something that is constructive and uplifting and motivating, or is it something that is going to kind of derail me in some way or another? And if it's not helpful, yeah, kick it to the curb, right? Because it's like, I'm only interested in helpful, constructive feedback. And then the third one is it kind? And that's where I use that best friend filter, where I ask myself, is this the way that I would put it to my best friend if I were giving them honest, constructive, helpful feedback, right? I would be couching it more positively. I would be focusing more on the positives. Just like when you give feedback on anything, you want to kind of build up the positives. Like, here's what really went well. Here's what you did really great. Here's what's going well. Here's what we need more of. And then over here, we're going to talk about like the areas that we have to improve, but we're still not going to say that you failed or you're stupid or you're not good enough or any of those other things, right? That we will tell ourselves, but we wouldn't say to our best friends or closest confidants.
Yeah, and I love the fact that you say kind, because a lot of people are like, oh, it's nice, right? And you're being nice, right? Nice and kind are totally different things. And that's something that my coach has worked with me on in terms of talking to people, right? It's one thing for me to be nice, but like nice is non sequitur. It's holding back. It is, it's not actually speaking the truth. Kind is like that you're speaking the truth in order for the person to hear what's in their best interest. And when we're speaking the truth to ourselves, it might sting, but also at the same time, it's coming from a place of love and care. Is that what you mean by kind as well?
Right. That's exactly right. That you are giving yourself the kind of love and care that you would give to someone who's very precious and important to you.
Gotcha.
If you really have to think about it, think about your kid, right? Like you're raising a child. This kid, they don't come out of the womb knowing how to be great human beings. It's our job to teach them that. And so, think about how you give feedback to your kids and how you want to make sure that you give them this necessary information that they need, but not in a way that's going to limit them. And not in a way that's going to defeat them, but in a way that's going to empower them and motivate them. And then just do the same thing for yourself. It's so simple, and we don't do it.
It is so simple. And have you done this on like any of your little lives that you put out there?
Yes. Okay. I did a video that I just did. It's on my website.
Okay, that's freaking cool. Well, look, while we're here, let's talk about your website.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your website. What are we going to get when we go to your website?
So when you go to my website, you'll get my everlasting love. And then right now I'm kind of working on something really special that I'm about to reveal in a week or so. That's going to be kind of a great life plan for helping you start to get on a path of achieving something that you've been held back from. For however long it is. So that's coming. And in the meantime, I'm, blogging and I'm producing videos, and I'll shoot those out to my subscribers every once in a while. But pretty soon we're going to have a really awesome little machine that's going to be just the thing that you can kind of do on your own, for yourself, with yourself, to get you a little unstuck.
Yeah. So I'm going to make sure to go to, because I'm not on your listserv, so I'm gonna make sure to jump on your email list, so when you announce it, I can get that. Are you also going to make the announcement on your Facebook group?
I will.
So while we're on Facebook, you can just go and click and join her group right now. It's in the show notes. So make sure that you click on that. What, next week or so we can expect that? Is that okay? Awesome.
So like, it's a designer right now, so we might just have to make a few tweaks, but we're going to be ready to go in a week.
Okay, and I have seen a sneak peek of that bad boy, and it is like, it's going to be awesome. It's like this awesome like work through and stuff like that. Walt says it best. You are amazing, Laura. I guess you are too, Mark. LOL. Well, thanks for joining us today. Everybody, thank you for being so engaged. This has been episode 83, 82. I forget already. Golden Mike Live. Here we go. I don't know if you've ever seen the ending of this, but it's in Chicago. The Golden Mike is descending from your ceiling badge. Welcome to the sorority. Welcome to the fraternity. You now belong to the group of Golden Micers who have made it all the way through. The mic stops right in front of you. And this Golden Mic translates into every single language all across the world for 2 minutes or less. I'm about to flip the Golden Mic so you can say whatever it is to the world that you want them to know. So Laura Badger Honeycutt, you are on the Golden Mic Live.
Okay, so what I want to say to you is everything that you have ever wanted is on the other side of fear. And if you can just start replacing the stories of fear and the stories of lack and the stories of not good enough with the stories of achievement and hope and success and abundance, you will experience on the other side of that treasures and experiences that you probably can't even imagine right now.
Drop that Golden Mic like it's hot. The Badger has finally made her way to the Golden Mic. This has been episode 83. Make sure that you're sticking around, CoachHoneycutt.com. It's dropping next week, that workbook. You're going to love it, y'all. I'm going to be back tomorrow. You know I'm always here, but I have one final question for everybody. If you're feeling good and you're living your life to its fullest purpose, what is your responsibility to change history for the better? I'm your boy, Marc Cordon. This is Laura the Badger. We are out. Have a good one.
Bye, guys.